This is the Team Objection podcast for May 23rd, 2019, episode 392. We have a doozy of a show for you. We have two pretty controversial Hall of Fame candidates, I think. Or at least maybe they're not controversial on the surface, but I think there's going to be some spirited debate about both of them. And both of them have had some real highs and real lows on their ledger. So please stay tuned for that. But first, I need a judgment from the panel.
Okie doke.
So I'll keep the story short. I don't want to incriminate anybody too badly. And, of course, with the nature of my position, I can only go into so many details on a public forum without probably getting myself killed or fired.
Or both.
Yeah, both at the same time. Last week, I got stopped by a coworker I haven't interacted with a ton. Does not work in my department. And she complimented my dad vibe. Now, I typically wear either kind of like athletic, so like more form-fitting t-shirts with jeans or slacks. I do wear some like polo shirts like I have on now. I have part of this dad vibe apparently was the giant shoes I have, which of course are not really a fashion choice so much as I have giant
Necessity.
feet. It seemed like it was meant complimentary. I'm pretty sure it was. I certainly didn't take like offense to it, but has anybody else even heard of a dad vibe before or a certain dad style?
I've only heard of dad bod.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not what she was saying.
No.
So I think maybe she's confused. I don't think that's a real thing.
So I'm thinking dad vibe is something along the lines of like, you look like, a middle-aged man is my guess. Like,
That's
you're
not a
wearing
compliment,
white New
though.
Balance. I know.
Right.
Like you're wearing like white New Balance with your polo shirt tucked into your light jeans. I don't know.
But that's not. No, I think it's like a comment of like, you're looking like classy, like mature, like you've grown up. You're not going to work wearing like, an express like edgy T-shirt. You're dressing your age, and I think it's a compliment. I think.
How old is she?
I don't know for sure, but younger than me.
That's interesting.
So should we consult the Bible of Urban Dictionary? Because I just pulled this up.
Uh-oh.
I'm scared.
Probably
Well, I mean,
not, but
that means it's
doesn't hurt.
sexual in some form or another, but let's
Actually,
go ahead.
surprisingly, it's not
Okay.
at all. It says it's a palpable feeling that a man is a dad. It usually happens when he is around your own father's age and is kind or has the same demeanor, such as a teacher. Also, celebrities with beards sometimes give off dad vibes.
That
What?
sort of sounds like what's intended here.
So someone who's slightly younger than you thinks you're as old as their dad?
How do we feel about the fact that we're having to consult Urban Dictionary for a reference that all of us are too old to apparently have gotten?
I don't think it's that.
I do it all the time.
Oh, I feel totally irrelevant these days, so
Yeah.
who cares?
The Urban Dictionary will be my Bible as my kids grow up because I don't have any clue what they're talking about.
Do you guys ever get the feeling though that like when you don't know all the slang, that the younger generation is the one that's irrelevant, like from you?
Yeah.
No.
Does that
Oh,
ever?
you're
I
just
think
getting
that's...
Because I'm like, that's stupid. Who talks
You're-
like that?
You're really spewing some dad vibes there, Shaun.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
Yeah.
having to look up dad vibe is the epitome of dad vibe. And this is also
You're
that because
probably right.
every generation ends up shitting on the one that came before it and after it.
It's true.
They
It's
do.
true.
It makes me think of like my parents who like the highlight of their life was like in 1969 and like the 70s. It's the only music they listened to. They just stopped listening to anything after that. It's kind of the same kind of thing. We're like, well, in 2010, like that was the good shit, and now we're like, what is this nonsense that really the kids are listening to these days? Like,
I really do like listening to the 2000 hits of the 2000s radio station.
see?
Yeah, but
Dave's a
most
good
of us don't do
example.
that. Michelle, you don't do that. I don't do that. Chris
I
doesn't
don't
do that.
really.
Oh, I do it. I'm finding myself less and less listening to more relevant music. I find myself going back to the stuff that I loved when I was in college. I'm
Wait,
trying
relevant-
to actively...
Relevant
Not
and
that.
modern are different, though. You know what I mean? Like, because
Well, in
you
my
never
case, it's
listen to like the hits. That was like never you to begin with. But
Yeah.
like,
No.
you listen to like when Neutral Milk, whatever bullshit band, releases a new album, you listen to it.
Oh, they've been gone since the 90s. So
Wow.
no, that wouldn't have... But you're right. Yeah.
My
it's like-
point is, I don't know anything about this
it's
band.
like there are bands that have been around for like 20, 30 years that it's like, okay, they're not necessarily like relevant, but they're still modern that I'll listen to.
And that's what I meant. Like modern is what I'm like. Dave is like, I don't know. I listen to like Toxic by Britney Spears, and that's about the extent of it.
I mean, that's a good song.
It's a good song.
It is a good song. It is a good song, but like I also like, and it depends. So like old, like 2000s pop is superior to modern pop. But like there's a lot of modern rock that I think is far better than 2000s rock. I don't know if there's a genre, you guys can fight me on this, that is worse than like 2000s rock and like Pearl Jam and like Sugar Ray, which is maybe even dipping into like
that's late 90s,
90s, but like that's all bad.
I think
like,
you're
I
probably
don't-
right. I think there's also a stretch of country around that same era that's also real garbage.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's worse.
Yeah.
You might still be right.
I mean, country for the large part has like been bad for a long time, but at least now there's a little more emphasis on like the rock side of it. So even when the lyrics continue to pander, it's at least like, okay, they're doing cool stuff on the guitar. There's at least that.
Yeah, but she thinks my tractor is sexy, so there's that.
Yeah, that whole like Toby Keith, whole
Urban.
vibe. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
Keiths. It's real bad.
Keith
Keith
Hernandez.
Richards. Oh wait.
Anyways, by the way, as I was walking away from that conversation, I heard in the background, "Do you actually have kids?" So I don't know what I'm supposed to make of that either.
I mean,
yeah.
we're at that age where many people our age do have kids, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you have to. So
mean,
If you
I'm
really
34.
want to, if you want to feel good, you can just think she was calling you like daddy, and then that's for sure compliment.
I mean, the good news is the HR representative is actually in town today and tomorrow. So if that is a concern, that couldn't happen at a better time.
voice it.
Yeah,
Voice it.
it's perfect.
Because I can't. No.
Daddy Chris Hadley.
Dad vibes.
So-
That-
Let's
that's,
call. Just call him
That's
at
a
the
new
rest of the episode, really.
I might. Also,
All right, Daddy.
this is a spot where the gray hair does not help.
All right, Daddy,
Oh.
what are we talking about this episode?
But it helps.
And honestly, this is perfect because there is a particular person we're going to be talking about who exuded some serious dad vibes in the last movie that I saw him on.
That's what I'm saying. And you would not say that this person who exuded the dad vibes was not hot.
No, it was very much like, I'm upset that I find this very, very attractive. But it was definitely dad vibes. Like, now that we're putting this into our lexicon,
See?
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling
It's
it.
good. See, Chris, I think it was a compliment because she could have said, "Wow, you're really giving off some over the hill vibes."
Some Danny
That's
DeVito
Not
vibes.
good. Dad vibes, I think, is fine.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it is definitely, it feels like friendlier and it's not daddy vibes.
Which is also
and-
fine, but different.
Definitely fine but different. No judgment there.
Maybe she wanted you to be her sugar daddy.
Also fine.
Yeah, to say there are some aspects of this because of it being a work type situation where it's actually not fine.
I mean, it's not really fine, but it's a
Well,
compliment.
particularly given my position, really not fine.
The
but-
consequences
Yeah.
might not be good, but it still is a
No.
compliment.
But I think no matter how we're reading this, the intent is positive,
Yeah.
no matter what.
I think so.
Chris, if she was like, "Chris, I want you to take me into your office and just like,"
That's not
the
vibes,
consequences
that's
are
direct.
bad,
Yeah, that's
but
not vibes
that
at
is a
all.
compliment for sure. So that's all I'm saying. You got to take the compliment. You know, when you get to our age, you take it where you can get it.
That's
Just
true.
make sure you have blinds on your office, Chris, just that you can close something. That's all.
Also
My only
good.
advice.
Yeah, I have 500,000 square feet of windows that are in the parking lot everybody parks in. So we're in trouble.
Get lots of blinds.
Yes. And then everybody will know. So Michelle tried to segue pretty well, I should give credit, into our first candidate for Hall of Fame this week. We mentioned having 2 powder cakes potentially, and I'm going to be interested to see. On this first one in particular, I could see a range of about 4 to 4.5 that this could end up, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Ryan Reynolds. He was just in Detective Pikachu. That's the recent peg, but of course his career technically goes back to 1993, although nobody knows what the hell Ordinary Magic is. In theory, we're looking back at right around 2000 when he broke out with Van Wilder and a couple other movies that were okay, I guess, maybe.
Well, let me tell you my story of Ryan Reynolds.
Rylan.
Reynolds.
Rylan Reynolds.
Raylan Givens.
He was in Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. And I don't know if that show, I don't know if it's aged well. I don't know how it is. At the time, I thought it was pretty good. And I liked him in that show. So when he started being in movies, I was like, cool. I like this guy in that show. I'm going to go see his movies. And I didn't like almost any of them for a long, long time. Van Wilder, I had forgotten about. Didn't like it. I have some others pulled up here if I can find it. Sorry, Dave got me distracted with a tweet from someone else. By the way, the image is bad. That you failed. The tweet itself, I think, is funny. The image is. I'm like, oh, I see. Anyways, he was in Blade Trinity, which I heard he did good in a bad movie. And then there's like a lot of bad stuff. He was in Scrubs, Chris. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's one of the worst guest characters in the whole show.
Excellent. He was in the Amityville Horror, which was not good.
He's in Waiting.
Waiting was sort of like a cult classic. I didn't like it at all. So
I don't know if that's aged well.
I don't think it has.
No, it hasn't.
No.
I don't think it has. And then he was in Smoking Aces. I don't know. He was in X-Men Origins. A good role.
Yeah.
While it was him, and he could talk in a horrible movie.
Oh, just terrible.
But a precursor of something to come.
Yeah, and then he was a douchebag in Adventureland.
He was.
He was awful in Green Lantern, which was an awful movie.
He was also a douchebag in Just Friends. I've actually seen that one.
Yeah.
He was a very terrible person in that one.
R.I.P.D. was awful. Turbo, I heard, was okay, but I thought it looked terrible. And then Barry, that was supposed to be like his breakout role. Everyone come see the range Ryan Reynolds has while trapped in a box for an hour. And that movie sucked.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
That sounds hilarious.
Never saw it, but yeah, it existed.
Yeah, these are not good.
So a lot of like bad movies. He started to save it a little bit with The Proposal, which is a classic.
I mean,
Everybody loves The Proposal. Like, generally speaking, that's a classic.
There's some charm there, but it's not good.
It's not a good movie.
It is a good movie. I'm going to look it up right now. The Proposal.
I've actually seen it. It's not.
Oh, well, if Dave says a movie's not good,
Oh.
discussion ends immediately.
I saw it on TV.
I only knew him initially as a rom-com guy. I mean, I saw The Proposal. I think there was one other that I saw, and like I actively like kind of loathed him. I was definitely in the I'm not other girl, like, you know, I'm not like those other girls kind of a thing. And so like I always like said that I really hated rom-coms and chick flicks and all that shit, but I think realistically I always kind of liked them, and I think I also kind of liked him too. I just never wanted to admit it.
Yeah, Dave was kind of right. It's a 44% Rotten Tomatoes. That's not very good.
But a commercial success. $317 million on a $40 million budget.
No, I mean,
surprising.
Sandra, and I'm blanking on her last name.
Bullock.
Yeah, thank you.
Day O'Connor.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I was thinking of, which was stupid. Anyway, she was. Both of them were fine in that movie. It was just kind of a weird premise.
Well, they didn't really have any chemistry. It was kind of weird.
Yes, you're totally right.
I actually didn't want them to fall in love. I thought it would be nice if they were just like friends, but of course that can't be the thing.
I think that movie is close. Well, I guess in theory you should say it this way. Long Shot is a lot more like that movie than I think it wants to say that it is. Mm-hmm. Just basically 10 years later with different people.
Yeah. Man, you know what we got to do? Keanu Reeves. Anyways.
Oh my
God. Sorry, I just saw him. And,
what a weird art that. I'm going to put him in there right now.
Yeah.
I have a question for everyone.
Okay.
I'm hoping this is just me because I know I'm weird. For a little while, I confused him with Dane Cook back and forth as far as their looks and kind of mannerisms.
Okay,
mannerisms
they do look alike.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then Waiting came out. I'm like, okay, they are separate people.
Yeah.
Well, you had to then.
I always thought that they were both in that movie.
They were.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why you had to acknowledge because you could see them in the same place. It's like, okay, they can't be stunt doubles because they're both here.
Yeah, no, I did the exact same thing, Dave. Especially when he was in like kind of bit roles or little wrong. It's like who's who? I don't know. I don't really care.
But then he came out in some People magazine where you saw his abs in swim trunks, and I was like, wow, this is why he's still getting work.
Yeah, because he's attractive both in the face, but also turns out he had a good body too.
Yeah, extremely good.
But Dave, to your point,
I have the dad bod.
No, he didn't. To your point, though, Dave, I look at a picture of him from like 2007, and I think he's a douchebag. Even though he's the same person as he is now, he looks different now, and it's weird to me because I don't have that same negative reaction when I see him.
Yeah, he kind of has a punchable face. And I say that like lovingly because nowadays I am like quite fond of him, but there was something about he kind of seems smarmy, and maybe it was the roles he played or just something about his face I don't personally think he is really all that attractive.
It was totally the roles he played. I mean, in Waiting, in Van Wilder, all these different movies. He was always this, I'm way too good for every single one of you. Everyone can die just because I'm cooler than everybody.
Yeah,
that was always his role.
Yeah, but his face just kind of lends itself to those roles.
And that's why he probably played them, but still. He had a punchable face. I will agree with that.
I mean, if you're comparing him to Dane Cook in terms of looks, it probably means punchable face.
So I'm the only one on the planet who liked Ryan Reynolds like before 2005.
No, Shaun, I think
10,
I
maybe.
Was very attracted to him, but I didn't want to admit it to myself because that means that I watch a bunch of chick flicks.
She was in denial.
I see.
That's the reality of it.
I see.
And I will admit, and I think he still has a punchable face, but in like I love you and also want to like punch you. I don't know.
What's your rock bottom Ryan Reynolds? Because I have a very clear choice.
What's that? You want to be the bottom for Ryan Reynolds, Shaun? Is that what you said?
Yes, sure. But I would say Green Lantern.
That was funny. It just like boop, boop, it popped like right on my thing.
Yeah, skip the recording too.
Oh.
Are we out of sync now?
No, I think
good.
we have recovered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think his worst role, certainly relative to expectations, I'm with you on this. I think Green Lantern is an abomination of film.
So, with all that said, when Deadpool was announced, I was like not excited at all.
Yeah,
because it's like, great, another Ryan Reynolds vehicle. Everything he touches turns to ash. And it was like the role, I mean, you talk about this sometimes with certain actors, like this was the role he was like born to play.
He is just Deadpool, in my opinion.
Totally true.
Yeah.
He's willing to just shit all over himself in that movie and realize how dumb it is in its own way, which therefore makes it cool. Almost.
I just feel like Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds' ego. Like exemplified. It's really interesting actually, because I think it's just his Twitter is like he just sounds like Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like there's like no differentiation. It's kind of fascinating.
He's
actually.
a funny guy. I think he's funnier. He thinks he's funnier than he actually is, but he is still pretty funny.
I think I don't know about that. I think he's as funny as he probably thinks he is.
That's fair.
What's even stranger is, so I just recently saw Detective Pikachu, and it was like a PG Deadpool. And I was like,
Yes,
I love this. Like,
I made that comparison before even walking in. It's basically just some more of the same sort of fourth wall breaking stuff that he excels at, which is great. I mean, lean into what he's good at. But to your point, I think it sort of all encapsulates his career in that he's doing the same stuff he was doing earlier in roles, but now he's in on the joke too. Both because he's breaking the fourth wall and because he's willing to make fun of himself as well. And that makes him a lot more likable.
And it's too, like, kind of, I mean, you can say the same about Green Lantern, but, like, Deadpool is, like, a comic book hero. Pikachu is a Pokemon. And when you have an actor who is so passionate about both of those roles, to Dave's point, like, you're taking someone who has a persona of being too cool for school, and they're pouring themselves into like these kind of nerdy roles, and you're like, oh, okay, like you're like breaking your stereotype, and I think that's kind of cool.
I mean, when you have the voice of Ryan Reynolds sad singing the Pokemon theme song, I mean, it's just gold. That is just gold right there. You're just printing money. It's so funny, and you're right. I think there's a lot to be said about that because you know who the person is behind the voice, and you're like, you're in on the joke. He's in on the joke. It's all very good.
Yeah. So, like, what a strange career because he is probably hitting his stride now. And
he's as popular as he ever was.
Oh, yeah. And depending on what this Disney-Fox merger does he get integrated into the universe? Probably not, but who knows? Is there going to be another Deadpool movie? Maybe. So, yeah, there's a lot of question marks going forward, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good time for us to be doing the Hall of Fame because, again, like you said, he's at his peak, I think, right now. And so I think we're looking at his career very fondly in this particular moment.
That is different than the previous people we've looked at who were
Yeah.
usually like, hey, they were really good, and then
Fall
drop
from
off a
grace.
cliff.
Almost
And-
always,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
He's like just stayed relevant, like barely, until the right role came around.
I mean, but would you say that he's kind of just worked his way to the top? I mean, these bit roles, these kind of crap. Do you think he actually genuinely enjoyed doing them? Because I doubt it. Maybe he did, but it does seem like he's hit his stride because he's doing things he actually is passionate about doing.
I would say it was funny, so there's a chance that it was just in there just for laughs. I think there was a reason the post credits of Deadpool 2 had him blowing his past self's brains out for taking on like Green Lantern. Like, I do think that was funny, but I also think it was in a way cathartic, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think
I
he was
mean-
happy about that role. And
No,
so I
and
think
know
you're right.
He's made jokes about Green Lantern openly and in other movies about like
Yeah.
you know how if he would done anything differently, like Green Lantern wouldn't have never happened, which I think that's great. And I there's a lot of self-awareness there, and I have to respect that because he kind of, it's one of those rare examples of like putting in his time in Hollywood and just kind of sucking it up, doing roles he didn't want to do, and just kind of making his way up. I kind of respect that. I have to say, you don't see a lot of it.
Well, it's cool. The last thing I'll say is Deadpool, he was passionate about it, but it was also like a passion project. He
Yeah.
worked
Yeah.
for years to get that off the ground, and they
Yep.
did like what do you call it? Like they shot the intro as almost like a self-produced thing and ended up making it into the film. That whole intro sequence, the Deadpool 1.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
so much passion. He really wanted to get this to succeed. Not only did he have to go through that, but also being a superhero, the first like rated R one,
Yeah.
there was a lot going against it, and like he made it work to great success. So like that's awesome.
And
That's
he'd already
such a-
been part of
Yeah.
a failed superhero vehicle, but we saw with Chris Evans that it is possible to come back from that,
Yeah.
Totally.
but hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, looking at the really long filmography, having watched a few of them and not liking them, maybe liking them a little bit more than I'm saying I like them, but not really being attached to this particular person and looking at how I view him now. Like, if I hear he's going to be in something, it actually makes me want to go see the movie now. Like, he's kind of a big deal as far as I'm concerned, as far as like likability, watchability. I like seeing him in stuff these days, and so I think my score is going to be pretty high.
I was about to say that I was going to use that same scale of like, if I hear he's going to be in a movie, how do I feel? And like nowadays, like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. I kind of want to go see that. And I know this doesn't usually weigh into our ratings that much, the personal life, but like he seems like an awesome dad, married
He
to Blake Lively.
does.
They're like an
Yeah.
awesome couple, still together.
Yep.
He's like the appeal of a whole lot of people on Twitter for that reason, for family, because he keeps it real as far as dad life and stuff like that. He's kind of like what people point to is like, this is how you should be a dad, because he actually takes part in things.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is an incredibly low bar, and I don't really give him that much credit for it. But
Yeah, but he also has politics that align with mine, and so I like seeing when he's supportive of certain causes. He just seems like an all-around pretty even-keeled person.
Yeah, your point earlier was talking about like, what does he have that same passion in earlier roles? And I don't know that he was dispassionate in some of those from like the mid 2000s, but there's
Yeah.
definitely a night and day difference between
Yeah.
then and now. And I think it
Yeah.
shows in a lot of the work that he does just because he wants to be doing it. And the same applies to like the Twitter, where it's stuff that he cares about, so he comes off a lot more favorably because he's into it.
I almost
Yeah.
wonder, do you think it's a coincidence that my two favorite things he's in, you don't really see his face?
Yeah.
Like, do you think it's just his face work is maybe it's but
It's
like
the
his
punchability.
voice work is so strong? Is it that kind of, or is
I
it
don't
just
know.
that's just how it's just coincidence maybe?
It might be, but I just read that they did a lot of like facial recognition stuff for Pikachu. It wasn't just like a bunch of like
that makes
3D
sense.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they actually did use his face for specific expressions and stuff. Even so, I see what you're saying, and it's kind of weird. I think it's just coincidence.
I think it's a
though.
coincidence,
I
but
think so
yeah.
too. 'Cause
we'll
I
have
did-
to see. The next few movies that come out.
A lot of Deadpool's
Yeah.
mannerisms are the same way. It's based off him, but you're still
Yeah,
not
yeah,
seeing
yeah.
him in both. So
Yeah.
there might be something there.
Maybe.
But he's had past animated roles where I didn't like his voice work. So,
Turbo.
yeah, primarily Turbo. There's one other one I thought he was in. I was
He was
trying to
in
look
The
through it.
Croods, but I don't know who.
Yeah.
I never saw that movie.
I didn't
so-
either, but I didn't
haven't-
hear good
yeah.
things.
Yeah, I haven't heard good things about either one of those.
Those are both the same year. I did not know that.
So, Michelle, you are
Well-
a rom-com Ryan Reynolds fan. Undeniably.
Well,
What is your score?
these days, honestly, like I do love me a shitty rom-com. I imagine if I went back and watched those, I would still not like them very much. But I did admittedly watch them, so it is what it is. I'm gonna give him an 8.
Okay.
I think that's fair. I again had no openly said I hated him. I couldn't stand him because of what he kind of represented in that particular genre. He really bothered me. I don't know what I was railing against back in the day, but I think he's come a long way. I love seeing actors be passionate about things that they're working on, and I don't know. He's just an enjoyable person to watch, and I think he's really blossomed as an actor. And yeah, I like seeing stuff that he's in.
I like it. I'm going to go 7.
I thought you were gonna say 2, and I was worried.
7.26.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my god.
And really, I'm thinking that's probably too high because of some of the early work, and not even his fault. He was an unfortunate victim of just bad movies. But I think you have to give a lot of credit to where he's taken it, what he's put into some projects to make them succeed. And we talked about, Michelle, if I hear a movie's coming out and he's in it, I'm like, oh, that increases my watchability. And that, I think that means a lot. So we'll see what happens, and if history proves me to be a fool for going too high. But I think for right now, that's fair.
That's fair.
Well, when he makes Van Wilder 2, and it's like, wait, what? I thought you were getting away from that.
Yeah, right.
See what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Deadpool would probably show up in a Van Wilder too, though.
That's true.
And that might be good.
Van Wilder's head off.
Yeah, exactly.
You want me to go before you, Dave?
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
That way I won't be pretending to influence the average because mine's going to bring it down. I do want to give Ryan Reynolds a lot of credit to survive the chaff that he had to wade through in the early parts of his career. He did a good job because that could have sunk a lot of people, and instead it seems like at the age of 42 he's hitting his stride. And it's interesting that there are several people that I think were primarily known first for their looks that are doing that, like a Matthew McConaughey, like a Channing Tatum, like a Ryan Reynolds. There are several people that are sort of bursting out from just the, oh, they're pretty to look at, to, oh, hey, they're actually pretty good at their craft too, and that's cool. And I really liked Deadpool. I didn't see the second one yet. I really liked Detective Pikachu. I didn't necessarily hate some of his earlier stuff. I don't even hate Waiting, even though I don't think it's aged well either. I haven't seen it in a few years, and my guess is if I watched it now, I'd probably cringe a lot.
Yeah.
It's really not PC or good.
No.
That said, I don't know if I'm going to give 2.5 successes over the last 5 years the benefit of the doubt over 15 years before that when it comes to a segment that's rating someone's entire career. So I'm giving him a 5, and before the last 2 things that I saw with him, it would have been a 3.
But what about
Yeah.
Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place?
I mean, I think that show is fine, but I'm not... I saw
Do you
like
actually know anything about it?
I saw 4 or 5 episodes, and that was only after Nathan Fillion joined.
That's a good point to see it for that reason.
So, I mean, maybe there was more to it. Maybe it got better later. I know it is revered well. It's sort of like a cult classic now too. But I don't think that's enough either. And even if it was good, that's still just one more thing against the whole ledger of movies that you look at from the late '90s and 2000s, where you go, yeah. So I guess I'm sort of turning into the Hall of Fame purist now, where I'm like, this early stuff matters too. So now I'm gonna have to give him a 5.
See, I am thinking that I am gonna probably judge him a little harsher on the old stuff just because it wasn't all that great and hasn't aged well. And honestly, Chris, your reasoning is kind of along the lines I was thinking of, in the sense of the last couple of movies I have liked. His persona nowadays seems really good, but that doesn't make up for just kind of the douchey roles he had to play and just kind of the persona he gave off for such a long period of time. I don't think he's bad by any means. I just don't think he's Hall of Fame worthy, so I would give him a 6.
It's tough
6
for
is-
me.
I was expecting lower.
Green Lantern happened, and he's recovered great from it. But that movie is god-awful. That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, especially relative to like expectations and effort put into it.
Yeah, if you were to rewind, when did Deadpool 1 come out?
2016.
So if you were to go like 2015, and especially if you eliminate The Proposal, which I know is not a great movie, but like a lot of people really liked it and liked him in it. Yeah, that's what would his score be then? It would be horrible.
Yeah, maybe 2 to 3.
So,
and then again, like you're looking at this from another point of view. What would it be in 5 years? And we just have to go with what we've selected. And I've already kind of considered this as we've done more of these segments. We might revisit people that have been scored in the past if something like notable or like noteworthy comes across our path that says, hey, let's reevaluate their score, either for better or for worse.
Come on, Adam Sandler, you can read.
Yeah, you can save this.
J.K. Rowling ends up in the Hall of Shame.
That could happen if she won't stop talking about this stuff. Another 10 years of this, I might strangle her all the way into the Hall of Shame. But the point being, like, as of this moment, it's much better than it would have been 3-5 years ago. But I still don't think it's like, wow, Ryan Reynolds is one of the best actors of our time. So I'm comfortable with him being where he is, which is in Tame. If he had made it in the Hall of Fame, I would have been a little like, I mean, at this point, which to open the doors for everybody. But I think Tame's a good spot for him.
What did we rate? Did we do Robert Downey Jr.?
No.
Oh my God, we need to put him on the list. I didn't even suggest him because I'm so sure we did him. He's like who you think about when you're going to do a section called Hall of Fame that's going to take in the body of work.
He might be the toughest one.
It's going to be real rough.
We should also do Woody Harrelson.
Let's do it.
Goodness, what a career
now,
he's
though.
had.
Yeah.
Right now. Boot the other option. Here we go.
All right.
I
So
was thinking there was this movie that the two of them are in, and I'm like, it's bizarre, but
yes, white men can't jump.
yes,
That's a good movie.
we always get when we get the juices flowing, which is
I
a
know,
saying
I
I
know.
don't like, but
It's a weird one when you really break it down.
We think of good ideas. So the next option today. Actually, this is really fitting. Nintendo against Sega. It's not just two relevant movies coming out. It's two video game adaptations.
And by the way,
decades-old war.
yeah,
Head
and
to
the
head.
last trailer for Detective Pikachu was the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer, and I just thought that was really I understood the decision, but boy, did it look bad.
Yeah.
I know.
So as you've noticed, we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. What relevant actor could we possibly be talking about? Not the douchebag who plays the Army
real
General.
James Marsden.
Yeah, not James Marsden, not the guy playing the Army General who gets told off.
Neil McDonough.
Yeah, who's like a bad guy in like everything he does.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
Obviously.
But rather, we're
Who's
talking
Sonic?
about Jim Carrey.
Yes.
What a hard one.
Yeah.
Personally,
This is gonna be tough.
he's a psychopath.
Yes.
So
I think I don't blame him for being I don't fully blame him for being a psychopath. He touched Jenny McCarthy, and I think he just went off the deep end as soon as that happened.
That's true. We don't know what she's carrying, but she's definitely not been cured for it.
I remember
no.
reading an interview about like him rambling about the number 23. He was, of course, in the movie 23, but you don't have to like religiously follow every movie that you're in. And it was a very strange interview. It was akin to Kyrie Irving talking about the flat Earth. Like, come on, dude. So, like, personally, he sometimes seems really wise and sometimes seems absolutely crazy.
I think our most brilliant / weird comedians in particular have all kind of had this, not the same stigma, but something that was underlying that made their comedic genius shine through. Robin Williams comes to mind. Mel Gibson, even though he's not a comedian, comes to mind, where he seemed like over the top and really into all these roles, and it turns out that personally he was also
Yeah.
over the top and really into everything he did. So I think sometimes it's easy to forget, like, yeah, they're actors playing roles, but there might be a genesis to that in their actual character.
Well, and it's weird to think someone who can be so deep and so dark at times really got his start. The big role, Ace Ventura,
Yeah.
where it's so, there's not an ounce of like gravity to that role.
No. There's no real stakes at all.
So
in
I
that
guess
one.
let's start at the top.
Let's break this down a little bit first, real quick.
Yeah.
Everything before 1994 doesn't matter. Just to get that out of the way.
Well, he was,
Finders
Living
Keepers,
but he
Well,
was
Living
in
Color.
in Living Color, unless it was after 94.
which is a TV show. Yeah, I'm looking at filmography, but yeah,
Okay.
Living Color gets its share of credit. Yes, but I mean, like film wise.
Oh, yeah, sure.
everything pre Ace Ventura is nothing.
Yeah,
bit
I'd agree
roles,
with that.
meaningless.
Yep.
In 1994, there are 3 different movies that he stars
Yeah.
in.
This is when it went buck wild.
That's
yeah.
the year. I read a stat. He was responsible for like X percentage of like the box. He had 3 huge hits.
And
It was the year of Jim Carrey.
And it kind of extends all the way through 98, like this run where he's in just big stuff, even if they weren't well received overall critically. Like he's just a huge forerunner. But 94 is Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber.
I mean, iconic.
Wow.
Like all 3 roles are like I grew up with all of those movies. I mean, I think I saw The Mask. I think I've seen The Mask 2-3 dozen times. Like it's ridiculous.
That much, huh?
Yeah, my dad loved it, and so like it was always on, and he just I've seen it so many times. I could probably quote the whole thing. Same with Dumb and Dumber. My brother was obsessed with it. We didn't actually watch Ace Ventura. I didn't love the Ace Ventura ones because they were just too slapsticky for me, but. Yeah, they were just so prevalent in my childhood.
So
all 3.
I'm like every level with these 3 movies. Mask I didn't like. And the big thing with me, especially with me being young, and so I like approach these differently. Like the power had no limit, and that like bothered me. As like he could do whatever he want, and purely invulnerable. Like what is this? And the bad guy gets the mask, and I'm like, well, now you're all doomed.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So that was I didn't like it. Dumb and Dumber I liked. I didn't love it. I don't know why.
I didn't love it either.
There's a couple lines like our pets' heads are falling off that I think are genius.
It's annoying, is the thing.
Yeah, they're too stupid.
They're annoying. They
too
are
dumb.
like, they're too dumb. No one is that stupid. And I think as a kid, I remember just rolling laughing with my brother. But like, I don't even know if we really understood half of it. It was just like, we knew it was stupid. And so we were like, gotcha, you know?
Whereas Ace Ventura 1, I actually, to me, it's the same status as like a Happy Gilmore. Like I know it's dumb, I know it's not very good, but if it's on TV, I will laugh. It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
There's some good ones in that one.
Which is the good one?
One.
Is it Pet
The
Detective?
first
In my
one.
opinion,
It's definitely not When Nature Calls.
strongly 1. 2 is as much as I like 1, I hate 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
1 is like a lot, and there's a lot of like fun stuff with like Dan Marino and like Courtney Cox is in it, and there's some good stuff in 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to. You were talking about '94. I found an article that kind of describes '94 for him real quick. Those 3 movies cost a total of $55 million to make. I'm sorry, $65 million total to make, and grossed almost $700 million.
Yeah.
Those 3 movies alone, and they cost $55 million.
They
total
all
to
took
make.
off.
Yeah.
And to make that same argument, like he became a person where you're like, oh, Jim Carrey's in that movie, I want to go see it. That's gonna be so good.
And I don't
yeah.
like we're talking about Hall of Fame for the purposes of an entire career. I don't know if there's anybody who has a year that stacks up to Jim Carrey's 94. I bet there's some other people that come close, but he's the star of all 3 of those.
I know.
All 3 were critical successes. All 3 are decently well received critically, again to varying degrees. I'm sure there are other examples that are not just coming to mind, top of mind here, but like that's a powerhouse year.
Yeah, just how iconic all 3 of those roles were. In the same year, that's like unheard of.
How many actors are even in 3 movies a year? I mean, it's some, but like you gotta even say starting there, you gotta have an actor who's even in 3 movies in the year, and then they all happen to be, smash hits.
And he's starring in them. He's not even just in them.
Yeah.
So this same article has Robin Williams in 1991 was in Hook, Dead Again, and The Fisher King, which I mean, those are 3 big movies, but not nearly as big.
No,
not even close. I don't
even know what Dead Again is.
I could never even told you what The Fisher King is.
So Hook, I know that one.
and I mean, some of it's self-selecting. I guess you could argue that the bigger actors, the better actors, are not going to take on that many projects in a year because they have that luxury, especially once they're made. And obviously, this was a launching point for Jim Carrey. It just shot him into superstardom.
Yeah.
So maybe it's even hard to compare. But man, I like seeing those 3 in the same year. I was like, I knew they were around the same time, but damn.
And then he was in The Cable Guy, which I believe was not a super commercial success, but a critical. I'm sorry, opposite. Not a critical success, but a commercial success.
Yeah.
See, I didn't hate that movie as much.
It was
I
okay.
thought it was it was okay. It wasn't great.
I didn't get it.
I
was
liked
just for it.
Watch it again and maybe it'll be better now.
I liked the idea of it more than I think I liked the actual execution.
That's fair.
Of it.
Yeah.
That was John Cusack?
No, Matthew Broderick.
Shit,
Was
they
it?
look the same to me in my head sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, for the record.
Yeah. Yeah,
Fine.
that's what I
Skipped over-
expect.
We skipped over Batman Forever.
You know, he wasn't
He
that
was
bad. I
great
liked
in
him
Batman
it.
Forever.
I really liked
Yeah.
him in that. Tommy Lee Jones was awesome in that movie too.
I have problems with the writing of those characters, but
Yes.
not the performances by those characters.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
I will actually say, in context, if you don't see Batman Forever as like the tipping point where like things went downhill way fast, and that's what led to Batman and Robin, Batman Forever is an okay movie. I will still say, like, it's all right.
It really is. I'm okay with it.
Is that an unpopular opinion?
Yeah,
I
well,
think
yeah, a lot of
maybe.
people are like the Joel. I think that was Joel. I think he did the 2. Joel Schumacher was 3 and 4. But a lot of people really didn't like it because it was cheesy, which it is, and it also wasn't the same like Tim Burton sort of like darkness that the first 2 had. So I had it going against it as well.
I think Val Kilmer sucks in it.
Val
Yes.
Kilmer is dead fish in the whole movie. He has a good mouth
Yeah.
for it, good chin for
Yeah.
the cowl.
Sure.
That's about it.
That's all you can say about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man, and then we have 97 when Liar Liar
Liar
came out.
Liar. That's my favorite of all of his.
It
movies,
is
in all
Same.
honesty.
I
well.
think it's mine too.
No,
I love that
I will
movie.
say this: it's my favorite comedy
Yes.
that he
Okay.
stars in.
Fair.
It's my favorite period. I think
Okay.
I know where you guys are going with this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's my favorite period, flat out. That's my
It's so
favorite Jim
good.
Carrey movie.
It's so
It's
good.
so good. I will watch it over and over again. If it's on TV, I'm watching the whole thing.
Yes,
and
me
it's
too.
it's
I'm the same way.
funny without being like Liar Liar, and even to an extent Ace Ventura, where it's like this isn't even like plausible. Like no one can be this stupid. It was a movie where a wish makes someone tell the truth is more plausible than like those movies for me.
It's so good. And
Yeah.
it has heart.
Heartfelt. It's so much heart.
And he shows
I
a surprising
know.
amount of range in that film.
He really
Oh my
does.
God.
More than it has any
He-
business, really.
Yeah,
But
There's
like
a
you
lot
can,
of chaos.
yeah. But you can look back and it's like it gives him those moments throughout in a few different spots where he can be kind of manic and off the wall, but it makes sense in the story. And he also doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be over the top. Some of the funniest lines in that movie are where he's just delivering them more like deadpan.
yeah.
Like some of the courtroom scenes where he's just going off on, going ham on everybody are funny, but I think some of his best lines are when he's being regular type.
I
Yeah.
actually agree with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Although I gotta say, I do appreciate. I'm kicking my own ass. Come
Yeah.
on.
Mine?
In your bra.
I was just thinking in your bra. Yeah, in your bra.
It's such a good movie, and yeah, it holds up so well because it has heart. I think
Yeah.
I love that movie.
The
so
only
much.
thing I would change about that movie is the ending. I think the last
him
10
chasing
minutes
down the plane.
are a little goofy, even by
It
that
is.
movie's standards. I don't even know if they're
yeah.
bad, but that's the only part where it rings a little flat. Like after the courtroom part's done, I'm kind of like, I could turn
Yeah.
this off now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
pretty
that's
much-
a good point. I've always kind of like the third act is not great.
I'm thinking it's going to be hard for him to be with his son when he's in federal prison
Yeah.
for throwing a shoe at a plane.
Uh-huh. And hijacking the stair
Hijack.
apparatus.
And also, that doesn't go that fast. And also, he would have died.
yeah, a lot of
well,
issues.
Yeah.
But we
What a
we,
pre 9/11 movie.
we let it go because the kid made a wish and the dad couldn't have followed through on the wish if he was dead. So we assume he has some kind of armor.
Right.
But yeah, Liar Liar is phenomenal. But there's some stuff in this middle range that I think it starts to get real interesting, both good
Definitely
and bad.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
Truman
the one right
Show.
after that was the Truman Show, which
I liked it.
is the
Truman
best
Show
movie.
is one of my
Really?
favorite movies
Yeah.
Hey, I
of
thought I
all
was
time.
minority here.
It's in my top 10 of all time.
Ever.
Really?
I love it. And I watched
Same.
it the other day, actually, like a couple months ago. And I was like, I bet you all watch it and be like, it's not as
Yeah.
good as it was. And it's not.
No.
It is great still.
It's better. It's
Yeah.
better than I watched it as a kid. It's so
I
good.
still get the chills in the whole finale thing when he's going
Oh my
and Ed
God.
Harris is talking to him.
The music, oh my god.
I actually think I like it
thought
better now because you every time you watch it, you catch more little hints in like the world,
Yeah.
like things on the newspaper, clippings in the background. Like
yeah.
it's so good.
It's a
Dave,
really sorry.
go-
I'll,
no,
I'll
go
let
ahead.
Dave go right for this. Mine's quick. It's a really cool concept that holds up well.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years and it still seems like something that could be like totally plausible and relevant today.
Yep.
Well, it kind of was a precursor, not to that extent, obviously, but a precursor to our reality TV today, because reality TV wasn't much of a thing then at all.
It was just getting started. I think Survivor was like 99. Big Brother was right around then. So yeah, you have a point.
It happened to be like a parody and also like a precursor.
Yeah, strangely prescient.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, I really thought people hated that movie, and
No.
I heard that. Okay, good.
It is critically acclaimed.
I don't know if they like it as much as Michelle and I, but like.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might like it the least of the four of us, but I still like it a pretty high amount. It's 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh hell yeah!
Everyone loves it.
90 on Metacritic.
Okay. All right. I stand corrected.
Another movie I absolutely adore. I won't say it's one of my favorite, but I like it a whole lot. Eternal Sunshine.
It is
so good.
So good.
So
it's
good.
So good, and it's more relevant now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's
actually,
amazing.
Eternal Sunshine might be a better film, even though I enjoy Truman Show more.
It's more artistic, which is to say, Truman Show is extremely artistic in a lot of ways, but Eternal Sunshine is like an art piece. Truly,
it's so good.
It's gorgeous. Yep, two incredibly good movies.
I want to know everyone's opinions on Bruce Almighty.
I liked it. It's not good, but I enjoyed it.
I felt like I could hear the gears grinding of like Jim Carrey trying to like get back to his old comedic form. And maybe I'm wrong, but like it didn't work that well for me. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Like, it's a completely harmless film for me. Like I think there was a lot of weirdness, because then there was like, was it Man on the Moon, which was bizarre, and like I think a lot of people were kind of losing him and his like, what he's all about, and so I think there was kind of that push towards something more like Bruce Almighty, going back to that kind of comedy.
Chris, what'd you think?
Well, I was just say, and Me, Myself, and Irene is in that stretch before Bruce
Almighty
Almighty 2.
Not good, right?
Which is also kind of a mess.
Bad.
Terrible movie.
Okay.
No,
so Bruce Almighty does seem like a redemption for him, yeah.
Bruce Almighty is probably my third favorite movie on his list, I think.
Wow.
I loved that movie as a kid, when I was younger. I loved it because for me, it was such a stupid movie in a way of saying how you don't, like, it almost was a way of explaining religion to certain people who's like, well, why doesn't God let bad things happen? It's like, well, yeah, because they don't control everything. I don't know. For me, it was a kind of a very stupid way to parallel religion, which is dumb, but it worked, I think, because it was like how basically in the movie, they go through how he just says yes to everybody and the world falls apart, and it's like it's not that easy to just be like make everything happen. I don't know.
Right.
I thought he acted well in it, and it was kind of serious in its own way while being ridiculous. So I don't know. I liked it.
Well, I know that was him, and then Yes Man was like similar to Bruce Almighty.
Yeah,
that
was
okay. I never saw it. I saw both of them, and I was like, I'm sure the topic are completely different, but I'm getting a very similar vibe out of both of these films.
I much preferred Bruce Almighty to Yes Man.
Okay.
Yes Man felt very forced, and like there was a weird thing because what's her name, Zoe Deschanel's in it, and I mean the age gap was just astronomically creepy for me. I was like, I'm not interested in this as any kind of romance. It was weird.
Yeah.
Bruce Almighty, at least I felt like it had heart, and it was entertaining. Like, again, I don't really remember any of it, but I remember it being a very harmless film.
And then 23 was awful.
I never saw it.
Never saw it either. So
neither.
I'm just saying, okay, what I've heard is it's absolutely train wreck.
Lemony Snicket, he was great in that role. So good.
Yeah, he's pretty good there. The problem is you basically had this massive drop-off after Lemony Snicket, because that's right after Eternal Sunshine. That's 2004. After that is Fun with Dick and Jane.
Which I liked.
I think it's okay.
It.
That one's it's okay.
Though.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Number 23, critically panned. Horton Hears a Who.
It's so good.
It has.
It's a voice.
Has heart. It's an animated movie. He's had hit or miss roles in kids type stuff because I didn't think Grinch was very good.
I hated him in The Grinch, and I hated The Grinch.
I hated that movie. I hated it.
But
So
Horton Hears a Who is decent. Yes Man is okay maybe. I Love You Philip Morris. Nobody cared about. He's fine.
It's good.
Yeah.
What?
He's
I don't know
fine.
anything about it.
He's fine in A Christmas Carol. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
As of 2009, the roles start getting real sparse.
I never saw him in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, he's Scrooge and all the ghosts, I think.
I probably should. I love that story. Everybody does, but yeah, weird.
But then after that, it's real sparse. It's Mr. Popper's Penguins in 2011.
Like, what even?
It's
Yeah.
I saw it. It was fine, I guess.
The life of a businessman begins to change after he inherits 6 penguins. That's the synopsis.
Yes, his name is Mr. Popper. They're his penguins.
Interesting.
The Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Uh,
No, thank you.
Oh.
That magician movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that finale, I don't know what I was supposed to feel, but it made me feel bad. He shoots it like he's like an extreme magician, and his last act is like he's based off of what are the magicians? They're like Vegas performers, and they
like Chris Angel.
the
David
extreme
Copper.
ones.
Mm-hmm.
So he shoots a nail into his head, and it does like permanent brain damage, and it's like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be really funny, but you're like, oh my god,
Roll credits.
this is so sad.
Hooray.
that's awful.
Yeah.
He's in Kick-Ass 2 a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I hated the fact that he was in it.
He has a
Yeah.
cameo in Anchorman 2.
Nah, forgot about that.
He's in Dumb and Dumber 2, which was, I think,
Awful.
20 years after the original and should
Yeah.
not have been made.
Never, ever, ever.
And then he's in 2 things called The Bad Batch and Dark Crimes in 2016 that I have not heard of either.
Nope.
Never heard of it.
And then that's it. The next credit is Sonic the Hedgehog in 2019.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Which, you know what? I do think that the casting is good. But I just can't find myself anywhere in me to care.
The casting's good, but the writing, you can already tell, is going to
it's
be
gonna be
so
atrocious.
bad.
That trailer, like, I know I'm not supposed to judge things by trailers because it's probably not even going to be in the film. But just what I saw, I was like, this looks like trash. Like, complete and utter garbage.
The only thing in the trailer I care about is him looking like Robotnik at the very end stinger.
Yes.
Because there's that
How's
they
it?
spend like 20 seconds of that minute and a half trailer on that dumb exchange with the army guy.
And it's not funny at all.
It is
Nothing
really
is
bad.
funny.
Yeah.
And maybe kids would find it funny. I don't know. I don't know who this movie's intended for.
I don't either.
Because they're playing like Gangsta's Paradise in the trailer. Like it's supposed to be an homage to
know.
90s kids who have grown up and are going to go watch this. But the humor plays like it's for fucking 7-year-olds. So I don't
Yeah.
know who this is for, and I don't think anybody else does either.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about Detective Pikachu coming out now and
Yep.
Sonic coming out later is
Yep.
I think it knew exactly who its audience was and it did it well. Despite the writing being a little hinky in a lot of places, the plot not being very good, it landed a lot of things very well, especially for us who grew up with it. And I don't see how they're going to be able to do that in Sonic. It's just nothing about it really rang authentic to me at all.
And that's the thing, is like they're spending all this money to redesign the character allegedly now.
It doesn't matter.
And I'm like, don't
Right,
bother.
bullshit.
It's not going to
I
help.
know.
That's only
I know.
one of a myriad of issues.
Mm-hmm.
You can overlook a not great design if the writing is good. The writing is bad. The actual foundation is bad. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I don't know why they're wasting more money on something that's going to just tank.
I told Shaun this off air at some point before we went to saw Detective Pikachu, but like it just feels like a project that was greenlit and they got way too far into it before realizing what was happening with Detective Pikachu and the fact that they got basically scooped, as we say in journalism.
Yeah.
And there was no turning back. They had already invested too much, and they had just had to kind of hold the fact that they were going to come out later and worse. And they couldn't stop
rough.
it. And they couldn't
That's
stop
rough.
it.
And Jim Carrey is not going to be able to hold this thing together.
No. So this is probably going to be a loss. It's either going to be a loss or a win of such magnitude it's going to completely save his career.
Or a Pyrrhic
Like-
victory where he's the only good thing about it and
Yeah.
everything else around
Yeah.
it is still so bad that it pulls it down with him.
Yep.
I don't know. Judging by that trailer, It
He
wasn't
wasn't
good.
any better than anyone else.
No.
no.
So, Jim Carrey.
What a
This
weird
is-
career.
Hard.
It's so hard.
He's a man. It's in 2 of my favorite movies and a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
lot of
we
trash.
And we didn't really go into like his personal stuff.
He's
That's much
crazy.
at all.
I
It's a
started
train
to.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean,
No,
I-
just in the beginning, just saying like his personal life. Like sometimes seems really profound, and other times like you're a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense what you just said. And I just like reading an interview. Sometimes he flips back and forth the same interview. I'm like,
I
who
know.
are you?
That's tough.
I'll start scoring on this because I did last one.
Okay, yeah, please.
I think beginning a career, awesome. Everything through about 2003, awesome. I'd say maybe 2004. You know, when we got into that area, in the last 15 years, though, there hasn't been really good movies, and he's become kind of just a punchline of all sorts. I mean, it seems like he's kind of almost box office toxic, but not as much as some other people. So he's definitely not the draw he used to be. His personality's off the wall. I don't think he's making great movies anymore. I mean, if we had been doing this in 2004, I think I would have rated him almost as high as you possibly could have rated him.
Yeah.
But now I think I'm going to rate him at a 5, right in the middle.
I think that is extremely fair. That's kind of where I was thinking too, and it sucks because again, like Liar Liar, iconic. I grew up with so many of his movies, kind of similar like Adam Sandler in a lot of ways. And like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is like a perfect film. Like it's perfect. And I think Truman Show is too. And so that makes it really tough for me. And for that, I'm going to give him a 6.5. And it's basically writing just on those like 3 or 4 movies.
I'm realizing I need to retroactively adjust the Ryan Reynolds score because just a little bit. Ryan Reynolds needs to be more like a 6.4 or 5, which is still not bad. But like I want to put Jim Carrey at a 7. And if I'm comparing for the reasons, it's like, well, they shouldn't be the same. So Ryan Reynolds is going down. Jim Carrey's still a 7 for me because, yes, there's a lot of trash. And I would say the trash at the depths is even trashier than like Ryan Reynolds, for example. Like that's what leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Is the bad is so bad, but the highs. I mean, the year we talked about was so good. He was world renowned for that. Like everyone knew Jim Carrey. He was an icon. That like Ryan Reynolds he's great. He's nowhere close to that.
No.
Eternal Sunshine, Truman Show, so good. He hasn't done anything lately, but. Like, what he started at was so good. Liar, Liar, one of my favorite comedies ever. Like, I got to give him at least a 7, even though it's surrounded by such drivel.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. I think In Living Color deserves to get some credit.
Yeah.
Prior to the film career.
The Fireman Bill was a great character, I will say.
He was in that SNL skit that was great, too.
Yeah.
The head bopping.
Fairy.
What is love?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It's weird to me because there are some absolutely huge misses in here, and yet, to me, the bigger issue is he's basically dropped off the map in the last 8 years. He has a couple of cameos, and I guess Dumb and Dumber 2 as a vehicle that he actually led. But overall, he's kind of just done nothing. And in some ways, I guess you can hold that against him. And in some ways, like I guess better nothing than just crap after crap.
Yeah.
So I'm forced to examine how much that span from 94 to 2003 really matters. And damn, there's a lot of hits in there. Like, we just gave Ryan Reynolds credit for 2.5 good movies.
Yep.
Jim Carrey blows that out of the water. And Ryan Reynolds had just as many misses. Maybe not as bad, like you said, but there's a lot of bad stuff in Ryan Reynolds' past, and he ended up with decent scores. I'm going to 7.5, which is higher than I thought I would even give him at the start of this segment.
Yeah, I almost want to go 7. I'll rock the 7, but I think 7.5. I debated it.
I in fact, like when you guys are going up with the 7s, I feel like 7 is what I should give him too, in retrospect.
So he's almost, well, not really, because if Chris's highest is a 7.5, and you have to, what do you have to be Hall of Fame?
An 8.
Oh,
His standards are higher than
yeah.
Time Capsule. Yeah, he's not getting in there.
Yeah.
And that's probably fine because there are too many
a shame.
blemishes on the record. The personal life does matter to me. It might even be like a half a point higher if it wasn't for the fact that he seems to be completely wackadoodle. And similar to a couple people we've talked about in the past, we know he has more range because of stuff like Truman Show, like Eternal Sunshine, but a lot of his characters that were critically renowned are one note.
Yeah.
Especially the mid-90s stuff is all kind of just like, look at Jim Carrey being crazy and funny, which is fine. And it's really a good thing for him overall, but does it really showcase how good he is? I don't know.
Yeah.
So
it feels like it's almost better to have gone a path of do excellent work for a period of time and then disappear, because it's what that saying. It's either you either die or live long enough to become the villain type of thing.
It's the Daniel Day-Lewis effect.
Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I
One
feel like
film every 7 years.
I feel like I rated Adam Sandler higher because he hasn't had any personal life problems. He's pretty stale, and they both had a very high arc, a very high peak, but then dropped off. But he hasn't had the personal life problems, so I feel like that's probably why.
Here's what I will say, though. Jim Carrey should be a higher score than Ryan Reynolds, and he should be a higher score than Adam Sandler. And if we didn't do that,
We did.
We screwed up.
Thanks to me.
So we're on the right track.
Because we started with a 5 and a 6, and it was looking real dire because that's getting close to the range. Because remember, Adam just snuck in just like a smidge over a 5
Oh, okay.
to avoid the Hall of Lame, which I, of course, at the time was very upset about, and then realized it wasn't worth being upset about. But I think
There's worse things to worry about.
yeah, I didn't like go home and like kick my dog. Like, oh my god,
Like I did with J.K. Rowling.
Yes. I will say I think you guys are onto something because Bryan Cranston's in our Hall of Fame, and that was an early one before. Well, we were still sorting out the segment. I'm not saying he's not deserving or that he wouldn't still if we did it again now, but when you look at his career, there weren't very many misses, and it seems like as a panel we hold that against people more than maybe other people would. Not a value judgment. I just think it's a fact because Bryan Cranston has one hugely critically renowned role. He's good in Malcolm in the Middle, but let's not pretend like that was the pinnacle of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a few other things since then that are fine. But we're like, yeah, sure, Bryan Cranston, absolutely. Because there's not those lows.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a reason why I gave Ryan Reynolds such a high score is because you see an upward trajectory. It's not like, it's like so confusing. You're like, I have no idea what to expect from the next film. It's like, I can pretty well assume that the next thing I see of Ryan Reynolds is going to be good because he's on a roll. Like, I have no reason to believe it's going to be bad. Whereas it's harder for someone like Jim Carrey, or just like he's kind of just all over the place. And I think there's something to be said about consistency.
I don't know if that's our committee thing or if it's just a human thing, but we do tend to reward that upward trajectory, like you said. Maybe we're just optimistic.
It's recency bias, I think, is a bit
so
of it.
What we should do for a segment, you know how Survivor, sometimes they'll invite back like all the second place finishers to do like another round. We should go back and have an episode where we take like maybe the extremes or maybe just 3 that we really, and you kind of talked about this, but like one episode dedicated completely to revisiting like some of the stars that we have already rated.
You will never try to give up getting J.K. Rowling into the Hall of Fame, will you?
Well, I don't think that's one we do, unless it's to bring her down lower, which we might do. But like Bryan Cranston, the first one we ever did, maybe we do take another look. I still love him, so I don't know what that would be. But like I think over time, we take like maybe the 3 potential that could change the most, and we do them again, like Survivor All-Stars.
Right now, our Hall of Fame is Bryan Cranston, Stephen Colbert, George Lucas, Link, and Bruce Willis.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, George Lucas.
See, that's exactly right.
That was so hard, man.
That was a contentious
rough episode.
But I think it's fun because there is that contention. That's why this arbitrary tier system matters, because it gives you don't really like who cares if somebody's a 7.5 or an 8? Right. Nobody. Yeah. Unless that 8 gets you into a different tier. Now all of a sudden, holy shit, that half a point makes a huge amount of difference.
Yep.
Like, J.K. Rowling, he's more of a 7.25 than a 7.5. No one would listen.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, and this is hard because we have a panel that's a little bit biased, but like when you look at who made it into the Hall of Fame, and like, I don't know, personally, when I hear Stephen Colbert is one of like the 5 names we have in there, I'm like, I don't know. To me, that's a question 1. Maybe not to you guys. Maybe you're like, no, we nailed it, but
I think we did.
You guys are Stephen Colbert fans.
I'm trying to decide if Bryan Cranston.
Not even really. I just think that his body of work is solid.
I'm trying to decide if Bryan Cranston or George Lucas is my most fringe candidate. It's close. Yeah. It's close.
Probably George Cranston. Lucas would be in. With our new, I feel like we have new cynicism a little bit. I would be interested to do George Lucas again.
It wasn't even that long ago, too, but God.
I know.
6 months might have made a difference.
That's true.
So, yes, that is Hall of Fame. 5 people have made it in. 7 people have not. They're all in the Hall of Fame. No one yet has been designated to the Halls of Lame or Shame. We'll find somebody.
Get that Rob Schneider in there.
Rob Schneider's in the queue.
Right in there.
Can he even make it above a 2? He has to get out of the Hall of Shame, but we'll see. And we may still rescore the Hall of Fame, too, at some point. That may be another thing that we do, because then Adam Sandler wouldn't be in it.
Yeah, I think we should adjust it just a bit.
I think it should be 8-6-3-0. Like 8-6-3 are the lines.
Yeah.
So to get into Fame, it's an 8. To get into Tame, it's a 6. To get into Lame and not be in Shame, it's a 3. Because it's a 2 right now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It's our show.
Like, the problem with it is, like, other than Rob Schneider, who I think is a slam dunk, like 1 at most, it's hard to have somebody that anybody actually cares about enough to put in the Hall of Shame.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it would be someone you almost have to hate. You almost have to have someone that you absolutely hate and you want to talk shit about. And Rob Schneider kind of fits that in for me. And he might be a nice guy, but like your work frustrates me. What you do in your life makes me angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I would probably take his life because,
Sure, I would take it.
Successful.
Yeah.
But
You'd be morally and like intellectually bankrupt, but you'd be rich.
so shame, lame, tame, fame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good.
The whole genesis of this thing was me thinking of rhyming schemes for it.
You know what we haven't done, and we probably should start to think about is like musicians too. We haven't done any music.
Yes.
We've only
We
done
can do-
actors.
actors and video game characters are pretty much it so far. Directors, but anything that's that side of pop culture. I mean, J.K. Rowling's an author, but yeah, like there's some range to it, but we could definitely do more. It could be music, it could be podcasters, it could be all sorts of weird stuff that's
Yeah.
pop
All right.
culture-y.
Chris, do you belong in the Hall of Fame?
YouTube
Oh
stars.
my God. we do our own podcast. That would be fun.
Do I get to
Who will
vote
get the
on...
first 0? This guy.
Oh, I'd be firmly in the Hall of
No,
Fame.
we're not doing we're doing our podcast as a whole.
Man, talk about an arc.
It's like a
Doing this
6.
thing for 7 years.
It's like a 6. No consistency among the cast. Hit or miss
Yeah.
episodes, especially in the beginning.
This is meta as fuck.
Questionable
Yeah.
video quality. Dad vibes. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Dad vibes
Real
increasing
imagined.
Yeah, all the dad vibes are all increasing. Even for
the,
Michelle.
from the entire panel. Look at
I have
Michelle
some
in her
sick dad
beanie
vibes.
and tell me she doesn't have a dad vibe.
Totes.
She has dad vibes washing off from her love of Ryan Reynolds.
She's doing the podcast on a picnic bench wearing a beanie. That
That's
is
totally what it looks like.
a dad vibe.
Yeah.
It's some good dad vibes. I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the episode and the end of Hall of Fame for this time. We'll be back next time to pass judgment on 2 more things. I was going to say like celebrities, but it might not be. It could be anything. We'll decide. I bet you Rob Schneider's going to be one of them, and I can't wait to bury his ass. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com, on social media at Team Objection on Facebook and Twitter. It's objectionnetwork@gmail.com to send messages to the cast or ask us questions that we'll answer and rip you apart. And finally, visit youtube.com/objectionnetwork for video games 5 days a week, D&D 2 days a week, and this very podcast. We'll see you next time.